Besides pointing on this channel, I also like to talk about beliefs, assumptions, and views that can block change or distort the way you view life and the path and all of that. One of the big ones that I fell prey to and that I see tons of people falling prey to is the linear view of the path. And that can cause some really strong seeking that can cause a lot of suffering. It is the view that I'm going to do something and I'm going to get something. Someday in the future, I will transcend this place, this person, this identity, and it will happen one day if I just practice enough, if I just make progress. So I wanted to change the view up a little bit and offer you a different version of that may provide some relief. So instead of the view of I am a person who is going along a timeline and making progress, meditating every day, doing practice, doing inquiry, doing, try and reinforce the view that there's presence here. And instead of you going along a linear timeline and discovering things, think of yourself as presence that things are revolving around, that never moves. So you have presence, and then you have the conditioning that's showing up in your algorithm, in the algorithm that is spinning and weaving like a energetic fascia net around experience. And one way I like to talk about this, that's a good metaphor, I think, is a hurricane. So if you think of yourself more like a hurricane, let's just say Hurricane Tony. Hurricane Tony, you see on like news reports all the time when it's hurricane season and they'll name a new hurricane. So Hurricane Tony is a designation, and so is hurricane. But there's no Tony there. It's just a designation, just called something, just a label slapped on it. What there is in a hurricane is there's a bunch of conditions that make it stronger or weaker. Those conditions could be, water, air, heat, temperature, who knows, the forces of the moon, gravitational forces, all kinds of stuff. I'm no hurricane expert, but you get the idea. So those conditions are spinning around, combining together to make what looks like the form of a hurricane. And then they call it Hurricane Tony. So if you look at it that way, instead of Tony going on a linear path to awakening, the Hurricane Tony is a bunch of conditions that's showing up in experience and forming a view of reality. So if you take it that way, in the middle of the hurricane, there is nothing, but around the hurricane that forms the conditions is an appearance. Now, that nothing you could call, as part of our metaphor, you could call it presence, or this, or the unborn, or whatever. So when you're working with shadow work or inquiry about the nature of reality or about whether you exist or not as a separate individual, try to take on the view that no thingness in the middle and then the conditions of the algorithm that are spinning around are happening right now or outside of time, or, you could say the present moment, but there really isn't a present moment. It's always after the fact. What's happening can't be solidified at all. It can only be talked about right afterwards. So when you're doing shadow work or doing inquiry, think of it as the conditions that are spinning right in front of you. And they're showing up. In whatever moment they're showing up, a hard emotion comes up, or a thought comes up, an experience to be seen or worked with, inquired into, or a heavy emotion comes up to be felt. What is displaying right then and there is reality displaying itself, to be seen, to be felt, not to be owned. So when things then disappear, think of them going around behind you and you don't see them, like they're going into the unconscious. And then eventually they'll come back around in whatever form they do right in front of your experience again. But the nothingness, the no thingness that you are never moves. It just, the appearance of reality shows up right in front of you. It's dealt with, accepted, hopefully, and then it moves on to the next thing that shows up. And then everything else is behind you. It can't be seen, can't be touched, tasted, smelled, anything, until the very next thing that shows up. The very next thing that shows up is the only thing that exists. There's no movement. There's no progress. There's just seeing right here. Dealing with whatever's coming up right now. To me, that's the ideal way to work with this stuff. Anything else is a projection into the past or the future. So if you think of whatever's showing up right here and now, in this moment to be worked with, is the only thing, and everything else is behind. It's swirling behind, with the no thingness in the middle never moves. I think this view, taking on this view when you're working with this stuff, can relax some of the I need to place myself on a map. Where am I? Because that's the separate individual thinking they're on a path going forward in linear time to achieve or transcend or to become something else. But the thing that you actually are is always here and always has been, and doesn't need to become anything else. The becoming is happening right here and now, and it is also dying right here and now. Every sensation that comes up is also going away as soon as it's seen, and then there's a new thing. So I just thought that little tweak in the view of just being this thing here, this no thingness in the middle, that everything is spinning around or showing up as, to be seen and worked with or looked at or accepted, hopefully. Maybe that, if as you practice and go through your practice, if you try to kind of sort of reinforce that view as like, a thorn picking out another thorn, and then eventually maybe you throw both thorns away. But if you can almost like install that view as you're practicing, keeping that in mind, or as you're going about your day, keeping that in mind, then the view of a linear path may begin to disintegrate, and you can stay right here and work with the things that are showing up as your conditioned pattern algorithm to be seen and felt. So hopefully that little tweak may help you reduce some suffering or give you some breathing room to work with this stuff.